Guys, we have seen rap beefs before. We have seen chaos, diss tracks, and lyrical wars that shook the entire internet. But this? This is different. Because when did rap beefs start pulling children into the crossfire? When did it become acceptable to humiliate someone's family just to win an online battle? The Nicki Minaj and Cardi B feud has always been messy, explosive even. But what we are witnessing now feels darker. This is not just music industry drama anymore. This is personal warfare, dragging in motherhood, fertility, and even the innocence of children. And the internet? Oh, it is eating it up like wildfire. Let us rewind. It all began when Cardi B dropped her new album. What should have been a victory turned into a battlefield when Nicki Minaj allegedly took shots at the album's sales in a now-deleted series of posts. Fans claim she hinted that Cardi's numbers were inflated, basically calling her success fake. And that was enough to set off a digital explosion. Cardi clapped back instantly. She asked why Nicki was so obsessed with her, saying, "Shouldn't you be comparing yourself to your peers?" reminding her that Cardi was in high school when Nicki first broke into the scene. Cardi said she was literally just cooking at home when Nicki's tweets came out of nowhere and ruined her day. And that moment, became the match that lit the fire. But what happened next, no one was ready for. Because the insults went way beyond music. Cardi accused Nicki of visiting multiple fertility doctors, saying Nicki could not conceive because of the pills she had allegedly taken in the past. It was cruel. It was invasive. It was shocking. And Nicki? She did not hold back either. She went off in a fiery rant that sounded straight out of a courtroom confession. Nicki declared, "The Queen has never once seen or spoken to a fertility doctor in her life." Then she went darker, talking about Cardi's relationships, accusing her of sleeping around while her husband was with someone else. She even said she had Cardi's medical records and was planning to use them in court. That line alone made social media explode. Twitter turned into a circus of chaos. Fans picked sides. Memes flooded timelines. Some were cheering, others were disgusted. But everyone could feel one thing: this was no longer entertainment. This was hate disguised as headlines. Nicki continued her tirade, calling Cardi dirty, mocking her father, and hinting that her life was cursed. She ended one of her tweets with a haunting message: "You sold your soul. You made a pact. But you lost." That line sent chills through the fandom. It was not just a diss, it sounded like a threat. And then, she went religious. Nicki began invoking God, claiming Cardi had been neutralized in the mighty name of Jesus. She talked about planned pregnancies, calling herself blessed and intentional, while accusing Cardi of shame and chaos. It was brutal, unfiltered, and disturbingly personal. But Cardi was not done. In what might be one of the most shocking clapbacks of the decade, she brought up Nicki's son. She mentioned his birthday in a tone that made the internet collectively gasp. It was the moment everyone realized the line had been crossed. Because no matter what side you are on, dragging a child into a fight between adults? That is when the audience starts to feel uncomfortable. Nicki responded by reminding the world that Cardi once called black women monkeys and roaches, warning that karma might one day bring those words back toward her own daughters. And for a moment, the internet went silent. Because behind the jokes, the memes, and the stan wars, there were two women, mothers, tearing each other apart for millions to watch. Later, Nicki posted a statement trying to soften the blow. She said she had never experienced infertility herself but understood how painful it could be for others. She said it should never be used as an insult, that real women who face that struggle deserve empathy, not mockery. But by then, the damage was already done. This was not a rap feud anymore. It was digital warfare, built on screenshots, tweets, and a million retweets of hate. It was not about albums or charts. It was about pride, humiliation, and power. And the worst part? The children who were never supposed to be a part of it became symbols in a war they did not choose. So, as the world laughs and shares memes, ask yourself this: at what cost are we turning human pain into viral entertainment? Because behind every tweet is a real mother, a real child, and a story that stopped being funny a long time ago. It was supposed to be over. The world thought the feud had burned itself out, that maybe time had dulled the knives. But then, out of nowhere, Cardi came roaring back onto the internet like a storm that refused to die. Her words hit the timeline like thunder: "Why are you on Twitter dedicating essays to me? For the love of God, go to Chuck E. Cheese." The crowd laughed, but beneath that humor was venom. Cardi was done pretending. She was tired of being the quiet one. And this time, she was ready to go nuclear. Cardi accused Nicki Minaj of lying about suffering seizures after their infamous fight at the Harper's Bazaar Icons party during New York Fashion Week back in 2018, the night that had already become legend. According to Cardi, Nicki had not been the victim. Cardi claimed Nicki had been the one, shaken from an overdose. The accusation was vicious, the kind that makes the internet freeze for a second before erupting in chaos. Then came the warning, the kind that feels less like a tweet and more like a curse: do not mention my kids again unless you want me to spill the real tea on your son. The air online shifted. Everyone could feel it. Cardi was not just fighting anymore, she was defending her bloodline. Her voice carried the fury of a woman who had been pushed too far, the kind of tone that says you can insult me, but touch my child and I will burn the whole world down. And she did. Cardi's next words tore through the internet like wildfire. Your father never spent a day in jail, she said. Go hire a detective and run the records instead of dragging dirt from your family onto mine. She was furious, spitting out every syllable as if each one had been waiting years to escape her throat. Then she went even deeper, cutting through the air like glass. Cardi accused Nicki's father of being a crack addict. She did not flinch, did not hesitate, just dropped the words like bombs. The tension was unbearable. Every viewer watching the drama unfold online could feel the impact, the kind of silence that comes after someone crosses the final line. But she did not stop there. She went further, darker, accusing Nicki's brother of unspeakable crimes. It was not just an argument anymore. It was destruction. Cardi's tone wavered between anger and sorrow, the sound of someone who had reached her limit. You could almost hear the pain behind every insult, the exhaustion of fighting the same battle again and again. She demanded proof. Post them. Post the medical records if you have them. Show the world. Her fury was volcanic, the kind of rage that comes from humiliation and heartbreak. And in that moment, as she shouted into the digital void, it did not feel like a rap feud anymore. It felt like a woman finally breaking apart on screen. But Nicki Minaj was never the kind of person to walk away from chaos. The second Cardi's meltdown began to trend, Nicki appeared, as if she had been waiting in the shadows for her cue. Her first post was quiet but chilling. Also, I know you all do not like taking my advice until it is too late. But I do not listen to that music. It is dipped in evil spirits, and its sole purpose is to unleash the spirit of drama in your lives. It was not a tweet. It was a curse wrapped in scripture. Nicki was painting Cardi as the embodiment of negativity, her art as demonic, her presence as toxic energy. The internet caught fire instantly. Fans dissected every comma, every emoji, every tone. Nicki had turned the feud into performance art, and the world could not stop watching. Then came the second blow, her words laced with spiritual fury: we rebuke it back to the pits of hell. It shall not stand. Delete it, child. It sounded like a sermon, like a holy decree. Nicki was no longer just defending herself, she was framing herself as divine, chosen, untouchable. To her, Cardi was the enemy of purity, a corrupted force in a sacred industry. But behind the divine theatrics, there was something darker. Maybe fear. Maybe the quiet dread of being replaced. Or maybe the exhaustion of a woman who had spent too long being hunted by her own legacy. And just when it seemed like things could not get worse, Nicki crossed the final line. She went after Cardi's daughter. She tweeted, Barney B and Culture Vulture. Culture Vulture, you ugly too. The internet froze. The digital world went silent. Everyone knew, children were off limits. But Nicki did not care. This was not an accident. It was intentional. She wanted to hurt. She wanted Cardi to feel it in her bones. Nicki followed up with more. Culture a vulture and her mama a crow. So stupid to not see once Wendy ate that crow. They played you to do that hex to yourself, you flop heavy tongue. It was poetic and poisonous at the same time, the kind of language only Nicki could deliver, half rhyme and half ritual. Some fans called it iconic. Others called it demonic. But no one could deny that she had just turned a feud into a full-scale psychological war. Cardi saw the tweet. And something inside her snapped. Her motherly rage took over. Every instinct screamed to protect her child. Her fingers hit the keyboard like a weapon. Culture is beautiful, and you know that your hate is so deep, so dark, and so nasty because your son is nonverbal, 'cause you messed him up with them, she fired back. It was cruel. It was low. But in Cardi's mind, it was justice. You come for my daughter, I will come for yours. Then she twisted the knife. You jealous of everybody's kids and their happiness? The internet collectively gasped. It was not just shade anymore, it was psychological warfare. Cardi was implying that Nicki, despite the fame, the awards, the millions, was miserable, hollow, and bitter. And then came the sentence that broke the internet in half. Papa Bear, I am sorry you cannot speak in banging spoons because your mom could not put the down. The moment those words hit Twitter, everything exploded. Screenshots spread faster than wildfire. Commentators, bloggers, and fans flooded timelines. Some defended Cardi, saying she was just protecting her child. Others were horrified, calling it one of the ugliest moments in rap history. This was no longer about music. This was not even about fame. This was a war between two women who had once carried the torch of female rap, now locked in a battle that felt biblical. And as the internet turned their pain into entertainment, one question lingered like smoke: how far will they go before there is nothing left to destroy? Cardi kept going. Her rage had stopped being words, it had become something heavier, something that bled through every sentence. I am sorry your mom is not even paying attention to you on your own birthday because she is such an obsessed and dark-spirited hating person. I am so sorry. Every syllable dripped with venom. Every line was designed to slice through Nicki Minaj's armor. It was not just a feud anymore, it was an emotional dismantling. Cardi wanted Nicki to feel it. To feel small, powerless, and exposed in front of the entire world. But the saddest part? They were both trapped, two women feeding the same fire that the internet adored. Every tweet, every story, every insult became entertainment. Millions of people were glued to their screens, watching, laughing, crying, picking sides like it was a global sport. And with every hit of the send button, both of them were burning a little more. The feud got so big it escaped the music world entirely. Talk show hosts dissected it with mock seriousness. YouTubers uploaded hour-long breakdowns titled, "The Fall of Nicki Minaj and Cardi B, What Really Happened?" TikTok psychologists suddenly appeared, diagnosing female rivalry syndrome and ego defense mechanisms between the two. Everyone wanted to explain it. Everyone wanted to profit from it. The spectacle had become the story. But behind the glossy headlines, both women were cracking. The pressure of fame, the need to protect their children, the constant surveillance, it was all too much. Cardi's online energy became erratic, bursts of furious tweets followed by eerie silence. Nicki's tone shifted too, her posts became cryptic, filled with dark spiritual undertones. She started writing about witchcraft, betrayal, energies, and enemies sending her darkness. It felt like both women were no longer fighting each other, they were fighting ghosts, paranoia, and the curse of celebrity itself. Meanwhile, their fanbases transformed into digital armies. The Barbs and the Barty gang, two cults of loyalty and fury. They did not just argue. They hunted. They found personal information, doxed rival fans, spread conspiracy theories like wildfire. Every insult became propaganda. Every screenshot became ammunition. It was not fandom anymore, it was psychological warfare. Cardi's supporters accused Nicki of being bitter, manipulative, and terrified of new blood. Nicki's fans painted Cardi as a talentless PR creation who had slept her way into fame. And in the middle of all that noise, truth stopped mattering. It became religion. They believed in their idols like saints, fighting for them as if heaven depended on it. Yet both women tried to pretend it was fine. They posted pictures drenched in wealth and perfection, designer handbags, champagne smiles, luxury lighting. Cardi uploaded clips dancing with Offset, acting carefree. Nicki shared filtered selfies and spiritual quotes about divine justice and the power of silence. But you could see it, the tension behind the smiles, the exhaustion behind the glam. Even when they were not talking, their silence screamed louder than their words. Paparazzi caught Cardi out at dinner, jaw clenched, checking her phone like she was waiting for another digital punch. Nicki was spotted leaving the studio late at night, her eyes hidden behind dark glasses, her face unreadable, like someone tired of pretending she still loved the crown she fought so hard to wear. Then came the interviews. Cardi's voice trembled when she told one reporter, "I am not going to let anyone disrespect my child. I do not care who you are." It was not the tone of a celebrity, it was the tone of a mother whose patience had finally broken. Days later, Nicki appeared on a radio show, perfectly composed, smiling as she delivered her own dagger. When you do not have talent, you pick fights. That is what people do to stay relevant. The host laughed nervously, knowing exactly who she meant. And once again, the world took sides. Every sentence became a headline. Every pause became a theory. It was no longer about truth, it was about narrative control. Some insiders whispered that the feud was orchestrated, a marketing stunt that spun out of control. But watching the fire in their eyes, the cracks in their voices, it did not feel fake. It felt too raw, too personal. Maybe this was not just rivalry. Maybe it was the industry's curse, a system that thrives on pitting women against each other until neither survives untouched. Maybe they were both victims. But by the time anyone dared to admit that, it was already too late. Cardi went silent for a few days after her comments about Nicki's son exploded online. Some claimed her management forced her to delete the tweets. Others said she broke down privately, realizing she had gone too far. But in this world, silence is its own statement. And the silence from Cardi B spoke volumes. Nicki, on the other hand, leaned into her mystique. She began posting images of candles, verses about demons being exposed, captions like, "They tried to send darkness my way, but forgot who lights the fire." Her fans flooded the comments with hallelujahs and heart emojis. Her critics rolled their eyes, calling it performative spirituality. But one thing was clear, Nicki knew exactly what she was doing. She stayed trending. Then, out of nowhere, Cardi posted an Instagram story that felt different. Not an apology, but something close. She wrote about peace, family, and refusing to let the devil use her energy. For the first time in weeks, her tone was calm, almost reflective. "I am a mother before I am anything else," she said. "And I do not want my daughter growing up seeing her mama fighting online with people that do not even matter." It was the first moment of humanity in this entire war, a crack of light in a storm of hate. The post got millions of likes. And for a brief moment, the world exhaled. Maybe it was finally over. But then, Nicki tweeted, "When people throw rocks and hide their hands, remember, truth does not need defense." It was vague. It was sharp. And everyone knew exactly who she meant. Within minutes, the fire was reignited. Fans turned into detectives, comparing timestamps, decoding emojis, linking every lyric to a hidden message. YouTube was flooded with Nicki vs. Cardi, round 99 videos. Twitter became a courtroom. Every word, every look, every silence became evidence. Because in this new era of fame, the truth no longer matters. What matters is who tells the better story. And both of them had become characters in a never-ending digital tragedy, one that the world could not stop watching. Somewhere deep down, maybe both women wanted peace. But peace does not trend. Peace does not get clipped into reaction videos or dissected on TikTok. Peace does not sell. Chaos does. Their feud had become a storyline, too profitable, too clickable, too entertaining for the world to let go of. They were no longer artists. They were content. Every diss track, every shady post, every accidental like, it all became fuel. Even their silence carried weight, filled with echoes of everything they had ever said before. Weeks passed, but the fallout only grew uglier. Endorsement deals quietly started to vanish. Cardi's sponsors pulled back without public statements, trying to avoid the smoke. Nicki's image took a different kind of hit. Critics began calling her obsessed, haunted by bitterness and negativity. But here is the twisted truth: as their reputations crumbled, their streams skyrocketed. The numbers went up. Pain had become marketing. The internet had turned suffering into a sales strategy. The line between authentic emotion and performance blurred until no one could tell which was real anymore. Were they hurting, or were they performing the hurt that the world demanded of them? Somewhere in between those blurred lines, Cardi fired again. In a series of tweets that read like open wounds, she accused Nicki of being consumed by trauma, saying that her misery was not power, but punishment. She reminded Nicki of the curses she had thrown at her during her pregnancy, and claimed that what she was witnessing now was karma finally circling back. It was the ugliest mirror one woman could ever hold to another. Then Cardi went further, crueler. She mocked Nicki's family, claiming the chaos in her life was proof of the energy she had put out into the universe. She said, "You have a 5-year-old tiptoeing around the house who cannot even spell his name." The internet gasped. People said it had gone too far, that this was not entertainment anymore.